El Sobrante. Welcome everybody to the El Sobrante Municipal Advisory Council for December 14th, 2022. And the El Sobrante MAC is a panel which is advisory to the Contra Costa Board of Supervisors. And so I think what we could do is start the meeting off with a roll call. Edgar, do you want to do the roll call?
Yes. All right. So Thomas Lang.
Present.
George Cleveland.
I'm here.
Emily Whelan. Okay. Mickey Norris.
Here.
Melinda's on sabbatical. Sue Boudreau.
Boudreau. Yes, I'm here.
You know, Sue, I practiced your last name a couple of days ago and I still got it wrong, so I apologize. All right, Shirley Rosenthal Winston. She called me. She said she might not make it. So, Shirley, no. All right. Jim Herman.
He said he wasn't going to be here when we were talking about whether or not to have this meeting. He said he wasn't going to make it. So,
thank you, George.
You're welcome.
Tom Owens.
I'm here.
Hey, Tom. All right. So we have a quorum.
Okay, so first order of business, should we go ahead with the treasurer's report?
Sure.
Edgar?
So our treasury report, we have $3,000. We're going to end the year without using any of our funds. And the MAC, I'm pretty sure I sent the policies, the MAC policies that outlines what you can use those funds for. I can share that again if you like. But I want to encourage the MAC to use those funds every year since they don't roll over. So it's worth using them any way we can.
Okay. This might be something we want to revisit if we, as we talk about goals and priorities for 2023, which is an upcoming agenda item here. So I know, Edgar, that you sent, I believe it was today, the September 14th minutes. Is that true?
I did, and it was incredibly late. So if you folks want to put it for another time or as they are.
I scanned through them. I didn't find any issues. That does not mean there aren't issues. Has anybody else had the chance to look at them?
Yes, it looked fine.
Okay. Can we put it up? If there are no objections, I'd just like to see if we can put it up to a vote to approve the September 14th minutes. Unless...
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. So do we want to go around and take a vote? Tom Lang, yes. Sue?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
And Mickey? Okay. Tom Owens?
Yes.
All right. So unanimous. September 14th minutes are approved.
I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. So now we have our regularly scheduled presentations. I guess Edgar, you also sent today a at least I believe to the MAC members some attachments with data from the sheriff's report.
That is correct.
Okay, so that should be MAC members. That should be there on your emails. And so I'd like to cede the floor to Lieutenant Mark Rodriguez of the Sheriff's Office Space Station.
Hi, good evening, guys. I apologize joining you guys from the patrol car tonight. We just had a pursuit not that long ago. I'll start off with the reports. Those are the attachments that Tom was referencing. The first one that we'll reference is the select crime trends. So for the month of September, there was 22 reports. Month of October, we had 14, and for November, we're at 15. The the majority of those continue to be property crimes and not crimes against persons. However, we did have a little bit of an unusual uptick in restraining order violations. Could be due to the time of year. But with that being said, one of the directives we've been taking is to continue to increase proactive patrols and security checks, specifically along the businesses off Dam Road. The other reports we had, calls for services, we generated 781 calls for service in the month of November, and that resulted in 73 reports being drawn. Some of the changes that are coming up, we have increased staffing at shift change, which will be in January. We'll be seeing additional staffing as well. That's helping out quite a bit. What we're seeing is deputies are allowed to stay in their assigned areas a lot longer, specifically El Sobrante, which is one of the largest beats on the west end of the county. So that's allowing them to stay, have more of a presence within the beat and not having to go as often or frequently to cover their partners. The other is Bay Station has a mental health deputy assigned. So there's one on the west end, one in the central county, and then one on the east end now. So it's Deputy Heron for us on the west end. His primary duties are conducting follow-up or contacting those that are referred to him by deputies via calls for service, or if it's brought to attention by a neighboring or a partnering service, such as county mental health. And what we try and do is reach out to them prior to them getting into a state of crisis to try and mitigate any future calls for service with them that, might escalate based on either a manic episode or them being in crisis. So that's proven to be successful. It's initially started out with one deputy, and we're now at 3. So we'll continue to do that. The other is the county also has A3, which is another crisis response. And we've been utilizing them where appropriate. Obviously, there's certain things that they can and can't respond to. And a lot of that is dictated by any risk of violence or any weapons being involved. So those things are some of the updates. Also, for those of you that contributed and partnered with the Sheriff's Charities, thank you very much. We're in the process of our annual Shop with the Sheriff right now. So over the next week or so, we'll be distributing the gifts to the families. So I'd like to say thank you to all that participated in that. That is an event that the Sheriff's Charities partners with Macy's, and as well as individuals that donate to the event. And we try and get kids and their family members. They submit a wish list, and in years past, it's actually been them physically shopping with us. Due to COVID and some of the health concerns, the past couple of years, it's been them submitting lists and then the shopping being done on that. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. And I'll take any questions at this time.
Okay. I got an email from Will Plute, who's one of our regular attendees. And he mentioned that there was, it looks like, some kind of fatality accident on Castro Ranch Road near Amend. And I don't know, Lieutenant Rodriguez, if that is a Richmond patrol area or if the sheriffs would also have visibility on that, but he raised that question. I guess he's unable to be here this evening, but I'm wondering if you have any information for us on that. It was an accident, looks like a fatality accident today.
I wasn't aware of that one from today. There are multiple jurisdictions there. As far as in our jurisdiction, it wasn't. It could have been CHP or Richmond would be the others. And then also East Bay Mud has, East Bay Regional Parks has some jurisdiction over that as well. So I'll look into that and see if I can get you some details.
If I can speak based on what Thomas said, that would be City of Richmond before it would be the sheriff, because he said it's at Amend and Castro Ranch. That's City of Richmond.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that wouldn't. We didn't have any calls for service there today. So.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant Rodriguez, and I cede the floor to MAC members and anybody in the general audience who would like to ask a question for Lieutenant Rodriguez? Are there, Mickey?
On that report that we got, when it says on the calls and everything like that, what does abandoned mean on that report? Does that mean that they called and then hung up or something, or what?
So there's a couple different abandons. There's abandoned vehicles. I think based on what you're saying is like a 911 abandon. So yeah, either they call and hang up, or they call and it's an open line. That would be the abandon.
Oh, okay. I was asking because there are a couple on my street, and I was wondering what was going on there. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of those with cell phones now. A lot of those we get the way the cell phones work. It just goes off the nearest tower as to who it gets dispatched to, and a lot are pocket dials. But we still go out and investigate.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Further questions for Lieutenant Rodriguez? Okay, Lieutenant Rodriguez, as always, thank you so much for your service, and thank you for being here with us tonight from your patrol car. And all the best for a safe and happy holiday season and new year.
Same to you guys. Thank you very much.
Okay. So we'll go next to, it looks like Battalion Chief Thomas is here from the Fire Protection District.
Yes, sir. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Hopefully everyone is having a nice holiday and being safe.
What you doing, honey?
I'll just share with you from Fire Chief Bouchard's Chief's report dated December 6th, just to bring you updated on your fire district. Concerning operations update, on November 16th, we announced the reduction of the initial vegetation fire responses to a single fire engine because of the soaking rains and signaling the end of the heightened fire danger, which had commenced on May 6th. This year's period of seasonal fire danger lasted 187 days, 6 days shorter than the previous year. Through November 11th, the district dispatched crews to 1,718 grass, vegetation, and other exterior fires, which is a 12% increase over 2021, which was 1,528. 14 fires exceeded 10 acres. Of these, only 3 burned more than 100 acres before being brought under control. All of the season's fires were caused by some sort of human activity with 48 known to have been caused by illegal fireworks use. Another almost 599 began in or near homeless encampments or were otherwise started by transients. No residents were displaced by wildfire incidents in 2022, which is a good thing. Despite the increase, the district fared well with fire service preparation and planning, resident participation, early reporting, rapid and overwhelming responses. We added so much equipment and personnel to sponsors to do overkill right away, and favorable weather patterns in recent weeks, all making a big difference. Fire prevention update. In November, we experienced an increase in fatal fires across the district, including a double fatal fire at Countrywood Townhomes in Walnut Creek and a fatal tent fire in Concord. Both of these fires were determined to be accidental, and public outreach was conducted in both areas to provide fire safety tips. State mandated fire inspections were just over 97% complete at the end of November, with all mandated inspections projected for completion by the end of the year. As mandated inspections are completed, inspectors are focusing remaining time on re-inspections. I'm not sure how many are familiar with Captain Ryan, our fire investigator unit supervisor, and this is a big deal. has been accepted in the ATF's Explosives Accelerant Detection K9 program and is currently in Virginia at the ATF K9 Training Academy with Baxter, the dog, our new Explosives and Accelerant Detection K9. Both are set to graduate December 16th in 2 days and will be back in the county and available for providing this new and important service starting December 19th. This new resource will be a tremendous asset for the fire investigators in Contra Costa County and, if requested by ATF, across all of Northern California. The Bureau welcomed 4 new fire inspectors on December 1st. An additional fire inspector 2 will join the team on January 3rd. These inspectors will be fully trained and performing inspections in January. And only a few more items. The paramedic program update. In response to the industry-wide paramedic shortage, the district continues to sponsor firefighter candidates for training to support our ability to provide advanced life support district-wide. As a result of these efforts, 3 firefighters completed their year-long training process this month and are expected to be on duty as paramedics in the next month. 7 additional firefighters are continuing to train for their eventual certifications next year. PNOE contract update. The Contra Costa LAFCO approved our out-of-area service contract at their November 9th meeting. District staff continue to work with PNOE Fire Department and city staff on logistics and planning for the scheduled March 1st, 2023 transition of service to the district. And then the last item, and I'm working with the PNOE contract as well, making sure all our equipment lines up and what differences we have and things like that. It's a big to-do. Chief Gage is heading that up. Last item, AB 1705 implementation. In 2019, Assembly Bill 1705 or AB 1705 was passed, and certain sections of the California Welfare and Institutions Code were amended and added related to Medi-Cal. In short, AB 1705 establishes a new supplemental Medi-Cal reimbursement program for ground emergency medical transportation services that are operated by a government entity, including a fire protection district, CONFIRE. Existing law requires that non-federal share of any supplemental reimbursement provided under the modified program to be derived from voluntary intergovernmental transfers of local funds. So it gets into a lot of language here, but basically the bill requires eligible providers, including the district, to receive an add-on increase to the associated Medi-Cal free for service and managed by care payments. As noted, the district will need to provide funding along with all other public providers to support the financial sustainability of the program for the non-federal share of the program. And then it gets into the dollar amounts. We anticipate the district will need to provide intergovernmental transfers to the state of approximately $10 million annually, which will be paid on a quarterly basis, $2.5 million. The district anticipates total revenue from the program and the revised Medi-Cal reimbursements to be approximately $22 million. After accounting for the intergovernmental transfers and dissolution of the QAF and the GEMT supplemental reimbursement programs, it is anticipated the district will realize a net increase in total revenue of approximately $7 to $8 million annually. And that last portion, I will say is new to me, so I can't take a whole lot of questions on that. If you do have questions, I can get the answers. But anything else, if anyone has any questions, I am open for questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Thomas. Sue, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you very much for your report. It was quite quick and there was a lot of technical stuff in there that I didn't catch all of. Firstly, do the reports that you give us, it would be super helpful to actually have them. Do you have documents of that report that you could share with the MAC?
Yes, ma'am. I can add it in.
Thank you, because I'm trying to type, but I can't type and listen quite as fast as you're talking. And secondly, the last one caught my eye, the AD 1705.
Yes.
What does that mean for the person on the street, for the person in our community? Does it mean that there's going to be money towards getting people to hospital that's a bit cheaper?
I think you're right along the lines of that. I think it, again, I don't have a whole bunch of knowledge on it, but I think it does assist in that. And one of the board members could probably speak more on it because they were probably involved with it. But it does assist with that program. It does bring money in for transportation. Because
do you have situations where you've got firefighter paramedics trying to transport somebody who's really sick and having them refuse that service because they can't afford it?
We have that situation all the time, ma'am.
Right.
We still try to talk them into receiving the transportation and worrying about the bill later. We've had family members that, fathers of families that did not want their child transported because they were thinking about the bill, but we talked them into being transported for the care of their family member and worry about the bill later. But a lot of times, some of those bills, I don't know exactly how they handle them, but the fact that their family member is okay, they ended up making the right decision.
Okay, so this would be a wonderful thing if it was actually going to help with that. So thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Pam Morris had her hand raised. Pam?
There we go. I just had to find the unmute button. I have two questions. One is, I live up on the top of a hill, so I'm very, very concerned about the fires that can sweep very quickly in a lot of the El Sobrante area, truthfully. And the fireworks are months away, but since so many fires are started by fireworks, is there a plan to prevent them or to find them sooner so that they don't get out of hand?
Yes, ma'am. On our website, we recently added information on how to make your house as safe as possible with a fire break around your home or any flammable equipment that can be removed, and any dead weeds can be abated by just a simple phone call to the district. But a lot of information on tips on how to keep your area and your home safe, as well as reporting any violations to those ordinances as soon as possible.
Is there going to be any way of using drones or any other way of finding these firecrackers or whatever you would call them, fireworks that are dangerous this coming year? Is there any plan on being able to identify them before they wind up causing a fire?
Yes, ma'am. A lot of it is due to the public sharing information and reporting it to us, along with us working hand in hand with the law enforcement, sheriffs, CHP, and PD. And as soon as we hear information of things that could possibly be a hazard, we actually make face-to-face contact with the residents or take a look at that area and see what can be done to abate it before the season actually even gets here. But a lot of information is from the public.
And then I just had one other fast question. With all those grass fires, and thank you for being so successful with containing them, how many dwellings were lost with the number of fires that were stopped but still occurred?
It's not in the chief's report right here of exactly how many structures were lost, but I can get that information. We did have that in a previous report, but I can get those numbers for you and add it to an email and send it to.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. Thank you for your work.
You got it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question, Pam. Are there any further questions for Chief Thomas? Okay, if I
Just
don't,
one quick one. Could you tell us about Firewise and how that intersects with your agency?
Firewise,
Right.
I cannot, ma'am. I know that we mentioned that I think I heard of that the last meeting, but I don't have the information on it. But I'm writing as you speak.
I think this is
Firewise.
run by Sohaila Banya, who is the Richmond City Council member for District 4.
Okay. And I'm sure Chief Gates would have a lot of information on this as well. So
I was just interested in how you guys kind of work together.
Us in District 4? I didn't hear the question, ma'am.
The Firewise initiative looks like something that is part of prevention. And so I was wondering how that intersects with what you guys do on your official site.
I will find out.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
okay, are there any further questions for Chief Thomas?
There is one, Thomas. It's from Jean Henderson. She has her hand
Okay,
up.
Jean?
Hi, I just wanted to let the previous speaker know that I did attend the Firewise meeting. It is a prevention program. And I have a recording of the meeting if you'll put your email in the chat.
Okay, thank you. That's a great resource. Thank you, Jean.
Mm-hmm.
Further questions for Chief Thomas? If I don't see any further questions, sir, thank you so much for all the work that you and Contra Costa Fire have done over the year. I mean, honestly, it's kept us all safe, and you know, we really appreciate the approach of overkill, you know, dedicated to those fires that have broken out. I think that prioritization may have saved us from some tragedies. So thank you so much for all the work you and your colleagues do, and have a safe and joyous holiday season and New Year.
Thank you very much, sir. And the same to all of you. Chief Burchard has done a great job in putting this plan in place. You know, I've been working here over 32 years, and we've seen some really, really bad seasons, but this overkill is actually helping and saving some properties and lives. Thank you.
Okay.
And I'll work on putting the my overhead into the little drop box here.
All right. Thank you so much.
I just want to echo what Thomas said to Chief Thomas. Thank you for all your work, Chief. I was doing the minutes for September. I'm really behind. And I was looking at the report that you folks gave, and this was at the peak of the fire season. And I think I was looking at that you guys had deployed all of your fire units. Everyone was working double shifts, and it was just amazing work you folks were doing over summer. And, you know, right now in the winter, there's floods and stuff like that. But I'm glad that you folks have a break from the fire season. I know it's going to come back around the corner as soon as spring gets here. But thank you for all the work that you do. And, you know, in those minutes, hopefully we get them up to date soon. That's my fault. But in the minutes, folks can see the reports from ConFire and the Sheriff's Office and all the great work that they do during fire season. Because it's a lot, especially during National Night Out. So thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so I think what we can do now is, I do not see anyone out here from California Highway Patrol. Am I incorrect?
That's correct.
Yeah, you're correct, Thomas. They're not here.
Okay, so I think Edgar, you can give us your update for Supervisor Joya's office.
Yes, there's not much to report. I do have a couple of items, but I wanted to just quickly highlight the folks that I see that are on today. It's Anne-Marie from the Green Team, and then we also have Jennifer, who I worked with in the office. I see Ramon's also on and Serge is on. So I'm happy to see some familiar names, and I'm happy that folks are joining because I know it's pretty late and close to Christmas. So very good. All right, so back to the report. John wanted me to give you guys a quick update on the park working group. So they met on the 5th of December, and essentially the crux of that meeting was to go over the Public Works memo. And then the memo covers essentially 2 items. One of them being the estimated cost for the park, which is on the proposed Maori site park, and the contamination issues are on the site. So I want to start with the contamination issues. So the first one is the underground tanks. There's so the underground tanks that were formerly serviced, part of the former service station, were removed in 1988, but the soil sample beneath the tanks found levels of contamination from oil and grease. So the county is recommending a phase 2 investigation on those tanks, and then also a phase 1 report on the area, because there was prior agricultural use in the 1930s. And then they also recommend a phase 1 report on asbestos. And in terms of the estimated cost, so the proposed park that's on the Maori site, Public Works estimated that to develop the park, it will cost somewhere between, including the different phase 1 and phase 2 reports, it would cost somewhere between $7.2 to $11 million. And then the estimated ongoing maintenance cost for the park, which is the Maori site, will be around from $113,000 to $143,000 per year. And then that money will be to get that maintenance money, it will be through a ballot where, and this is still estimated in terms of how much it would be and who will be responsible for paying this additional tax, but it will be property owners in the region of El Sobrante. And the outcome of that meeting was that the group had a census that they wanted to explore other sites for the time being. They had agreed to do a walking tour over the weekend, but because it rained, John wanted to reschedule. So that was essentially the crux of that meeting. And we're still looking for another date to do a tour around El Sobrante and see and look for potential sites. But that was essentially the update that John wanted me to share with the group. And yeah, I know that there's a couple of board members here who are part of that working group. It's Sue, Thomas, and I was wondering if there was, well, John actually wanted me to, see if you folks wanted to share anything from the working group since you folks are a part of it.
Well, from my perspective, I think you gave a pretty solid account of it. I don't see that I have anything to add. Sue, is there anything?
No, I mean, there is a strong wish to have some kind of park and some kind of town meeting area, some kind of community meeting area. And we need to go and take a look around and think about the logistics of that. But it did seem fairly clear that despite a considerable amount of work that has been done by Sharon, Kay, and Sohaila and others around the Maori site, it did seem like the wish of the meeting was to look at other alternatives, because people saying they want a park, everybody wants a park, but then you ask people how much are they willing to pay for it, and that's a really different question. So we know that we need to get a finger on the pulse for what the community really wants and what they're willing to pay for as well.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That's a good addition to Edgar's summary. Are there any questions for Edgar for the District 1 presentation? Nikki?
Yeah, when you talk about $7.2 to $11 million cleanup estimate, does that, are there Superfund environmental cleanup funds available for that kind of thing, or is it, who's going to pay for that?
Right. So I just want to clarify that the estimate of 7.2 and $11 million, that's the estimate capital cost of the whole of acquiring the whole park, right, and developing it. So it's not just the contamination report that will be done. I think I have. Let me quickly scan through our report. I think there's an estimate around here. Yeah, the estimate cost range for the phase 2 investigation. I'm not quite sure if this is just for the asbestos, but we have here that it costs around $200,000 to $350,000, and that's just for the phase 2 site investigation, right? And that's just a rough estimate because the county doesn't. They're going to have to do I guess a audit of the whole and take inventory of the whole park and see what they're going to have to do, and then provide a more accurate estimate of the cost. But that's acquiring the property, that's doing, surveying the land, doing these phase 1 and phase 2 reports, and then developing the park. So that's where it ranges, and where that money's going to come from. So that's a question, right? Where's the money going to come from? And I think they were looking at putting something on the ballot, a ballot measure that's going to be community or because there's 2 ways to get something on, to get a ballot on the measure. One of them is proposed by the Board of Supervisors, which needs a majority vote. No, it needs 2/3. And then another one that needs a majority vote, but that's proposed by constituents or residents. And then the belief is that it's easier to just get a majority vote. So if it's proposed by constituents. So that's kind of the recommendation that John has voiced in the past, just because it's going to be easier to get a majority vote than 2/3. And the portion of that money and it's going to be through that measure, right, which is going to be a tax on a property tax that's going to be on El Sobrante residents. And it really ranges. I think there was the memo that John has, I can look it up. It had like a quick estimate that if all the residents paid $100 annually in taxes, how much that money is going to get, how much you're going to get for that, for how much money you're going to get with $100 tax, and how much you're going to have to get from, one-time grants and stuff like that. So that's a question of how much it's going to cost, and how much how much money you can get in the beginning to not create a tax that folks are going to not want to adopt. So yeah, I know that was a little muddy, but did that answer your question, Mickey?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious just about the contamination issue. That doesn't sound very, very good for any potential property buyer as well. I mean, if they buy a contaminated property, are they going to be responsible for cleaning that up, or it's even sellable as a contaminated site?
Well, it is. I think one of the reasons why they have to do so many reports is because it's going to be a public park, right? So it has to be, the park has to be to a certain standard, and in the report that was done in the past, there was proof of some kind of leakage on the tanks, and the site used to be was used for agricultural purposes, and it had agricultural chemicals such as pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. So they're going to have to make sure that none of that is left in the soil before it's used for the public. So I think that if they're using the property for something else, then it wouldn't be as rigorous, but because it'll be used as a park, they have to do their due diligence and run all these reports.
I believe that the car wash next door is interested, and if they're using it for some purpose like that, then I would imagine that their cleanup costs will be ever so much less than for a public park that will include children.
Right. So I believe Jean Henderson has a question.
Thanks. Just a comment. When Sohelos Group first looked at the Maui site for I'm sorry, was that to me? No, okay. So when Sohelos Group first looked at that site for a potential park, it was done with some urgency because there was a tire shop that wanted to open there. So I would think they're not going to have a lot of trouble with selling it. I don't know that a tire shop is any less worrisome in terms of the community, but I think they won't have any trouble getting rid of that site.
Okay, are there further questions regarding Serge Glushkov? Serge?
Yeah, here I am. Yeah, just quick comment on that. I mean, that site has been for sale for many years, and the tire shop was a while ago. So the issue of contamination now kind of emerging. I'm not sure how long ago that emerged, but it's kind of interesting. And I think there is a difference, of course, for the standard for a park as opposed to an industrial kind of use. But Larry's Tires from across the street was really concerned about a tire warehouse moving in. And then something happened and there's no tire warehouse there. So I think it's kind of an open question what's really going on there and how sellable the property is. But I don't, if it had been it was going to be an easy sale, it would have happened by now, because I think it's been on the market for 3 years. So just that.
Okay.
And I think that brings up the other issue with El Sobrante, the center altogether, which is that there's quite a few properties that are either underused or that are for sale. There's that big thrifty town site. There's some other places where there's a lot of kind of blank space. It's really bad for the look of the town. But I have no idea.
It looks like the thrift, what is it called? Thrift
Town.
I think it's called Thrift Town.
Has been purchased.
Okay.
And there are plans to, I believe, move forward and develop that site. It's going to be some sort of manufacturing, perhaps. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think it'll be a retail facility.
Yeah, I thought I remember hearing something about some kind of clothing warehouse or something
some sort
like
of
that.
manufacturing. You're right, Thomas. It's a retail.
I also wanted to bring up to Serge that there was a concerted effort to stop that tire company by the community. There was a lot of outrage and people complained, and because there was this park effort, it was, I think they were discouraged from buying that place. So it was related to a lot of community uproar about that.
All right. So just in the interest of moving the meeting along, are there any further questions for Edgar regarding the supervisor presentation?
Edgar, can you clarify for us, what is it that there is power, like how can we do something to change the mix of businesses in the downtown? Or is it just a total open market? Or, I mean, like I don't really know. We might all dislike the different uses that are coming, but what can we do about it, if anything? I mean, I know that there's a plan, there's a general plan that sounds all very nice, but
it's almost to me like a question that should be posed to John and have John come up with something to bring to us at the next meeting.
Well, as I understand it, the general plan shapes what the zoning is going to be for the area, right? That's going to say, basically establish what mixture of businesses are around. And then, what happens is that if if an area is zoned for a specific type of business, and if the proprietor of such a business wishes to purchase a lot, by law, they are perfectly free to do so. They have to apply for a permit to install and operate their business. And at that point, what happens is it goes through the review, the county review, but that county review is also subject to some public input, which the decision makers fold in to, to the final approval for the location of that business. And that's where we, at this point, aside from doing our part to shape, the 2040 plan, which establishes the theoretical mix of businesses in the area, that's where we can currently have input through the MAC and through attending county zoning meetings and other venues where we can make our feelings known. And the thing is, but what we have to remember, if somebody wants to buy a lot to use for, the purposes of their business, and it's allowed by the zoning plan, the current zoning regulations, then that's their right. And it's their right to have, have their application looked at. And where we fit in is providing our input at the right venues so that, it's known to the county what the neighbors think about this. But I don't think we can go and discourage businesses, from exercising their rights to establish themselves in a particular area in conformance with the zoning, right? But we certainly can go to the zoning meetings and the MAC meetings and make our position known.
I'm not sure so much as zoning, because we know that that's part of it. I think what Sue is getting at is, what can we do to make ourselves more attractive to certain types of business? Maybe we could, figure out what could be done. That's why I was thinking to bring in Supervisor Gioia, to figure out, because we're not the only unincorporated area of Contra Costa. There are others scattered all over the county that are unincorporated, and they have different business districts, and some of them seem to be more flourishing than others. And maybe it would be helpful to get some ideas on what we, as the citizens of our community, can do to bring people in.
So George, I think that's, that's a much better, that's a very positive approach, and it's better than what I was, what I described. But at the same time, the reason why I brought that up is when this tire company tried to purchase the Maori property, they received, what was a pretty hot-headed, hostile reaction. I didn't feel like that was particularly fair to them. And it sort of caught my notice.
Okay. Now, about what you said about zoning, I wasn't ascribing any negativity or positivity to it or anything like that.
No, I'm just, that's me. That's what I kind of, but I like this approach of saying, what do we as a community want to do to make ourselves more attractive to the kind of businesses that we want to come in? And, that's where I think the kind of work that the Chamber of Commerce does, and the Green Team does, and the Cleanup Group does, and the work that Melinda McLean is doing with the Good Table, I think all of that, coming together makes us more attractive.
Mickey has her hand.
Yeah, Mickey.
Yeah. So you mentioned the Chamber of Commerce, and it seems like, I don't know if that would be kind of what they do, is try to attract other businesses that would be more interesting to the community or benefit to the community.
I think it's more to support the businesses, not to attract a particular type of business.
Because I was thinking maybe it'd be interesting to get a representative from the Chamber of Commerce to let us know what it is that what they do. What are they doing here in El Sobrante? to support businesses or attract businesses, or just to get an idea of how we can work better maybe with the Chamber of Commerce.
So I was on the Chamber of Commerce board. Well, we do have a current board member of the Chamber of Commerce in our midst right now, and his name is Edgar.
Yeah.
So Edgar, maybe you'd like to say something for the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, I think there's two comments I kind of wanted to share. One of them was what Thomas was saying of, the way how the function of the MAC and these different entities to kind of track or just make it accessible for businesses to come to El Sobrante. And that's the whole thing of, the land use and the coding and the zoning, is that if you remember the general plan presentation that we had, the way that zoning is right now, this is very restrictive and is not uniform across San Pablo Dam Road. So creating that uniform mixed use designation, making that mixed use uniform designation on San Pablo Dam Road would allow businesses to, whether someone wants to, buy a property and use it both as a restaurant and as a living, space, or, do whatever they really want to do with it, they're allowed to. And that's just, allows folks to move here and do that. In terms of what's the Chamber of Commerce doing, I know that they're hosting a lot of outreaching to local businesses and businesses from across the county. For example, today they had a mixer at the Mechanics Bank where they invited businesses from El Sobrante as well as businesses from the West County, just to kind of network and mingle. I think I don't think I can do it justice of everything that the Chamber of Commerce does, since I just onboarded not too long ago. But I think what I want to do is that I want to invite Nicole Dunn, the president of the board, and have her present to the MAC on the, I guess, the goals of 2023, since we'll probably have this next year, and discuss how we can work with them to try to make El Sobrante more attractive to businesses. And and it's not just the MAC, and it's not just the chamber, it's all these different entities. We have Serge here from the Triangle, right? Or I know that name's kind of fluid, but we have Serge here, we have the Good Table, we have the chamber, we have the Green Team, we have the MAC, and we also have the subcommittee, Mickey, that you're part of, that's about the beautification and cleanup of El Sobrante. So I think it's just a combination of all of those working together to make El Sobrante whatever we envision it, because it's not going to be the MAC's, it's not going to be what the El Sobrante MAC wants El Sobrante to be, and it's not going to be what the chamber wants the El Sobrante to be, right? So it's a conversation with a lot of folks, and I think just starting off, we can have Nicole present from the chamber, and then communications with Serge. We're thinking about having Serge in the Triangle present in front of the MAC as well. And it'll be good to have the Good Table present and, just kind of talk about what is our vision, what is our El Sobrante, what do we want to see, and what we can do to help each other out. So I think that's kind of my spiel. And I think, yeah.
The one plug I want to make for the chamber is that the chamber does put on the Sobrante Stroll. And, so that's a huge thing that I think has a lot to do with sort of highlighting businesses in El Sobrante and bringing together nonprofit groups, businesses, and, getting the citizens to come and mix together and get to know one another. Another thing that just to carry on with the idea of the mixers, there are mixers, I think, either every month or every 2 months. And it would be good for us to have the schedule for those, because those are really nice ways to kind of meet the owners of local businesses and kind of know the businesses that are around you. So, yeah. But I love the idea of inviting Nicole. I think she'd make a great presentation, as well as the other various civic groups that we have in El Sobrante.
Hi, I don't know how to raise my hand. My name is Jennifer Napple. I don't even know if you guys can hear me. I'm a financial advisor, and my office is out of Walnut Creek, and so closer to Rossmore. And one of the things is, like, during the pandemic, a lot of people were working from home, and I just kind of wonder if there's an opportunity here for individuals where maybe they don't want to go back to the office, maybe they don't want to go back to the city. I know that a lot of people, I worked in the city for many years and I hated it. But there's an opportunity here maybe where people don't want to go back to the city, but that there's some sort of comfort of working in El Sobrante, and bringing maybe like this mini, not really financial, but, because people don't want to drive, right? They don't want to drive to San Francisco. They don't want to drive to Walnut Creek. And maybe they're not comfortable in Richmond. And so I kind of think of that. I'm still able to work from home, but I don't know does that sound weird?
No, not at all. And actually in El Sobrante, there are a couple of co-work places. Yeah, so.
Anne Marie has her hand up, Thomas.
Yeah, Anne Marie, I saw that.
Thank you. I was just going to make a quick comment that the land use design out of Point Richmond is coming out of the Point Richmond Neighborhood Council. And they're very conscious of what businesses are coming into Point Richmond, and they're very active. I also lived in Haight-Ashbury for 15 years, and our neighborhood council also did a lot of work around what we call land design use on Haight Street, Upper Haight. And it was also a very influential group of people who were deciding, well, let's say encouraging certain businesses and discouraging other larger businesses. So, but that was a coalition, and it probably will take obviously a little more effort to figure out how to design a land design use like subcommittee coming out of some of an existing organization that could filter in all the interest parties and then go from there, and maybe not reinvent the wheel, but maybe look at some of these other up and running land design use committees already established nearby to get ideas on how and whom they invited to the table and how it works. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, I know that. Thank you, Anne Marie. I know that. I'll just make it quick before we can move along on the agenda. But I know that the North Richmond MAC does something that's kind of similar, not exactly what we're thinking about, which is like encouraging certain businesses, because I think the MAC is pretty limited on that capacity. But what the North Richmond MAC does is that whenever there's a business that's proposing some kind of project or something in North Richmond, they have to present to the MAC. And again, these aren't contracts, but they're more of a agreement between the MAC and the business, where that they ask, oh, can you, well, if you're gonna come and create a business here in North Richmond, can you hire local residents? What's your commitment to the community? How many folks are you gonna hire from the community? What's that ratio? Are you gonna commit to donating a dollar amount to the community, things of that nature? So that's something that is not exactly what we're talking about, but it's something to kind of think about in terms of if there's ever a big box company that wants to move to El Sobrante, what are some kind of demands that other MACs are doing to these companies?
Okay, are there any further questions or discussion items with respect to Edgar's presentation?
Thank you, Edgar.
Okay, so in that case, what I think we have, the next step would normally be discussion items such as development plan applications. There's nothing on the agenda there. There will be something that will come into the January agenda that was just sent to us. Information reports by MAC members. And what I'm thinking is we could just combine this information items with the subcommittee report on the cleanup and beautification subcommittee. So Mickey, if you have anything that you'd like to report to us or anything you'd like to bring up.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to schedule a meeting. Ultimately, I'll get with you later, and Sue and I guess it's Tom or Melinda are the ones who are with me on this. So we'll put out an email, but I would like to get a meeting scheduled for January at some point. But just real quick, we have our third Saturday cleanup coming up on Saturday, 10 to noon at the library again. We meet at 10 and we have all the equipment people need and to help us clean it up. I think driving around today, it looked pretty good. There are some areas and we welcome any suggestions on areas that we should be targeting for cleanup that need a little bit more attention. So if anybody has anything, please, let me know and we'll pass it on and try to get a few people out there to help us clean up then on this Saturday. So this is our final cleanup of the year. We've done, I guess, 12 cleanups because we do it once a month, third Saturday. And I think, I don't know, Chris, do you have something to add about what's going on with the cleanup at this point? You're muted, Chris.
I would just mention also that we've been doing the cleanups in the area known as Ramone's Babe, which is the baby, the area by the 80 freeway, and that's going well. And that we continue to see the nexus. One of the things I think, if you want to look a little back at the year, it seems like we've seen the nexus with between the homeless issue and the trash issue is becoming ever more clear. And we've gotten some good alliances that we put together over the course of this year, especially I think with SOS, and now we're working with the El Sobrante neighborhood council over there in Richmond too. So I just would say that we're making a lot more progress in terms of creating this broader network that we've been aspiring towards for some time.
Right. Yeah. So I guess when we get to the goals and the priorities, I could say a little bit more about what I think our goals should be. But yeah, just keep doing it. Keep trying to get more people involved. Keep posting on Nextdoor, trying to get more buy-in from the community. So hope people will join us, and we'll try to do our best. We had recently outside on San Pablo Dam Road an RV that parked there that I interacted with. I noticed that he was setting out more and more things and trash and left a bunch of stuff when he actually did move the RV because it was not a good place at San Pablo Dam Road and La Honda Avenue. It was parked there. So,
one other thing I would say though is that we've got this postcard and it's pretty well received. And Mickey might have one there to hold up or something. I don't have one right in front of me, but it's got what we need to do is figure out where we can get into more people's hands. How do we get it so that when people move into town or when they're getting ready to move out of town or when they go to different places, they're going to get a hold of a copy of the postcard with all the suggestions and recommendations of where to get the stuff, get rid of stuff without dumping it. And so I think that's something we could really use some advice from other people as to how to get it out to more places right now.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay. So Anne Marie or Ramon, or Terry, they're all part of the green team. So you got anything to add about the?
Well, I am excited to have 3 more members join on Saturday. I have 3 commitments, so that's 3 more.
Okay,
that's all.
Thank you. All right. I think, or Sue, did you have anything you wanted to add about this? No? Okay.
One other thought though, are we looking at doing something on the day of service? Because that's January, it's only a month away. So if we were thinking of doing something there, we might want to at least throw that out there. That in last year we did a January 15th approximately a cleanup event. So we haven't made a decision about that, but we do need to talk about that pretty soon.
I think we can promote it. You know, like it's always a good thing to remind people that there is a day of service on Martin Luther King Day or around that time, that we could promote the next cleanup as a day of service, that, you know, to try to encourage people to participate on that level. I don't think we're going to, it seems like we can only handle like 2 major events a year, which is our National Cleanup Day and also an Earth Day like event. I think as far as more planning, I think that's what that would be. I think on the day of service, we'll just, maybe we can get Allison to play again, her violin or something like that. But I don't see us doing we don't have enough time to really plan a big event or anything like that.
And would it be apropos to have Edgar talk about the dumpster drop or whatever we just had?
Oh yeah, we filled up, we had a dumpster day last month, and we billed it from 8 o'clock until noon, and it was filled by 8:30. So.
It was a short day.
That was a short day, yeah. But we filled it, so.
And so Edgar had another one, but I just wanted to mention that that's another thing I think we're going to try to like work as an umbrella with getting the dumpster days and the cleanup days working together. Edgar.
Yeah, if I can, thank you, Chris and Mickey. Yeah, so the El Sobrante dumpster day, which was last month, got filled up in less than 2 hours, which is crazy to me, and I did not expect that. Thank you for everyone who helped out. I know we had to tell Mickey and Chris to not stop by because we were done already, and their help could be used elsewhere. But it was really fast. A lot of people got there before 7, and the line was already down San Pablo Dam Road. And I spoke with John this week about. I guess I spoke with John on Saturday over the phone because we had the East Richmond Heights dumpster day this past weekend. And we had a 40-yarder and a 20-yarder, just like the El Sobrante event. And only the 40-yarder got filled. The 20-yarder was empty. So we talked about, kind of switching the dumpsters that we use. El Sobrante, East Richmond Heights is a smaller community. They don't really come out and do all these kind of cleanups. And I don't know if they do big dumpster days or not. But maybe because El Sobrante is bigger, we can use 2 40-yarders in El Sobrante, use 2 20s for East Richmond Heights, and just kind of, go that way, just be more equitable with the way that we use our dumpsters. And yeah, so that's kind of the conversation we had. And it was a great event. Thank you for everyone who came out. Tom Owens was with me inside the dumpsters. Mickey, thanks for everyone. Chris, thanks for everyone Ramon helped out on the East Richmond Heights dumpster day as well, and it was pouring, so thank you. Yeah.
I know that Anne Marie and Terry also were big help.
Oh yeah, Anne Marie. I was with Anne Marie until noon. Sorry about that. I was with Anne Marie until noon on the El Sobrante dumpster day. So thank you, everyone.
I did a lot of the turning away of disgruntled residents.
Yeah, Sue. Oh yeah, Sue was
happy. There was there's a real need to publicize the dates for the next year. Really would be a very helpful thing to do, to get that set so that people know that they can, get their junk taken care of. So we reduce the amount of illegal dumping.
How many dumpster days will we have next year? Do you know?
I don't know yet. That's good. So I'm working on making the dumpster days for next year. I'm coordinating with my 2 colleagues because they have their own communities that also have dumpster days. So we're trying to figure out how we can best use them depending on the size and how often we have these annual dumpster days. Because I know we have one for the coastal cleanup, for the El Sobrante coastal cleanup that we that we loan out our dumpsters to. So we have to figure out the exact dates, but I should have it by January, and we're not going to have our first dumpster day until like March or February.
Okay.
So I should have all of our dates before the first dumpster day. So we will have those dates ready whenever we have the dumpster day and hand it out to folks.
Okay, and that's separate from when we have our cleanup days, which is picking up trash from all over the area, not asking the neighbors to come in and just dump their stuff.
Right.
Okay.
So Tom Owens has a comment or question. You're muted, Tom.
I just had a question for Edgar. Was it ever determined if we could spend some of our MAC money on getting a dumpster? An extra dumpster?
No, that was never determined. I can follow up. I want to say it's not. I mean, I don't think we can use it for that. I have the policies, the MAC policies in front of me right now, and I don't think we can use it. I mean, I can read the policies to you folks. It says, so if you have the MAC policies, you go to section 9 under section 9 sub B, funding will be restricted to the following uses. This is the fundings for the Treasury, $3,000. Clerical support, telephone expenses, post office box expenses, postage, print and mail services, community meeting expenses. Funding may not be expended on other items not directly related to the functions and activities specified in the board approved annual work plan. So actually, Tom, I think if we were to put it on the board approved annual work plan, it might, or at least the food and the coffee.
Well, it's also community events that we're doing.
So it says it outlines community meetings, not events.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So I'll share this with the MAC just for you folks can read it, but I'll double check with John on if we put it in the activities for next year's board approved annual plan, which hasn't been finalized. There might be a way where we can get some of that covered, but I don't think $3,000 can cover a dumpster.
You know, so there might be an occasion where we want to have, let's say, a meeting of different contributing organizations in the community, including the MAC, representatives from the Chamber of Commerce, and also from the various support groups like the Green Team, etc. Maybe a large scale retreat or something like that. I don't know if you would call it a retreat, but you know, certainly something like that might require perhaps like renting a hall from the Elks or something like that, and maybe getting some refreshments and binders and stuff like that. So
absolutely, we can probably even get the hall donated and then use our money for expenses. So yeah.
All right. So are there any more questions, comments regarding beautification and cleanup? Because if not, we can move down to agenda items and speakers for upcoming SMAC meetings. And we had two things, one of them goals and priorities for 2023 and the end of the year report. How do we want to proceed with this, Edgar?
For the goals for next year?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to see if there was anything that the MAC members wanted to put for the goal next year before I finish the annual report. I'm gonna add in there what we just suggested, which is a retreat, and I'm just gonna leave it as vague as that, just because if it gets approved and we don't really know what kind of retreat, maybe a retreat can just be a day where folks come to the office or where we get a hall donated and we have like a mingling event. If it's approved, we can use some of our funding for it. So I wanted to kind of use this time to see if there was anything that you folks wanted to kind of just put in the goals for next year, just in case if we.
I'd like to throw something out here for people to consider, and feel free to throw back either bouquets or brickbats, you know, whatever you like. But, you know, one thing that in the last election, we had Sohaila Bana won a seat for district, what is it? Is it District 4 in the Richmond City Council? And so, you know, she shares a lot of the same interests. You know, she's basically one of our active participants here at the MAC meetings. And so the thought of having her on city council, I think, is a way for us to kind of leverage El Sobrante in Richmond. And so I think, you know, maybe one thing we should be doing in 2023 is thinking about, you know, how we as the MAC can work better with the city of Richmond now that we have a person who shares a lot of our common concerns, you know, on Richmond City Council. Any thoughts? I mean, it seems like a reasonable.
I think it's a good idea because, you know, being forced by law to do to have district elections, which is what everybody has to do in cities and towns that are incorporated. This area, we'll call it underserved. And I'm not talking about the county, I'm talking about the city of Richmond, because it's like, oh, it's basically in the valley and it's kind of in the boonies and who cares? And so now that got that representation on there, yeah, it's a good thing. And just to, you know, remind people that, you know, while we are unincorporated, we're basically really intertwined with the city based on the annexation or lack thereof. And so it would be a good idea to have, you know, while we're not in the city of Richmond, you know, we're in the sphere of influence, as they call it, and it doesn't hurt to have someone who knows us and has worked with us and can help remind the city not necessarily to overrun us, because we had that happen several years ago with that lovely proposed methadone clinic that was basically surrounded on all sides by El Sobrante, except the tiny little slot of land where it was in the city of Richmond. So Richmond was going to get all the gains in sales taxes and stuff, and El Sobrante was going to be left with everything else. So I think it's a good idea.
Okay, so maybe we can put that as something we want to work on, in addition to having some kind of symposium or retreat or whatever you want to call it. Any other ideas?
If I may, we talked about it, but something along the lines of maybe it's a goal or priorities, just trying to come up with ways to recruit businesses. Where was the notice post? Ms. Napple, what notice are you referring to? There's a question in the chat from Jennifer about where was the notice posted.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. I was just talking about dumpster day.
Oh.
It was on Nextdoor?
It was. Okay. Thank you.
So I want to magnify what George said with regard to, you know, what are our ways forward to try and tip the balance towards businesses that will improve our community. We have no coffee shop really in the middle of El Sobrante. We have the Starbucks way at the end, but that's not really a community meeting place. How could we get more businesses like that and other businesses which we would, you know, as a community see as helping to make this a town center where people actually want to go. And I think also that the idea of a town square or a meeting, how could we do something about getting some kind of town square going on? You know, those are things that have come up over and over again. And I'm not clear about the kind of legal and governmental landscape for that.
So am I hearing like a goal for next year is getting a better understanding on how we can, I guess, I know it's just shaping the way that El Sobrante is more attractive for certain businesses, or just being more involved in attracting certain businesses, or kind of developing El Sobrante's development. Is that what I'm hearing, Sue? I can put
yeah. How do we attract businesses that will build our community?
So I guess, one thought that comes to mind that I know communities tend, cities and villages across the country tend to do is they have a packet for potential new businesses, right? And so these are the lots that are available. This is what the community needs. These sorts of businesses would be really welcome. What I don't know is whether the Chamber of Commerce has such a document, but maybe that's something that, if it's something that needs updating, that we might be able to put our input into.
Right. It sounds like a good way of overlap between the business community and the rest of us, the community members, Chamber of Commerce and the MAC.
Okay.
Yeah, and as
Serge put something in the comments in the chat. Serge, would you like to elaborate on that? Seemed like kind of what your organization is doing.
Yeah, it's pretty much exactly what we are trying to do. The Chamber of Commerce is an entity that is designed to attract business to an area and attract revenues and enhance property values, et cetera, which is great within standard kind of free market thinking. And so what Triangle Works is trying to do is sort of do things along the same line, but do it in the lines of intention, with intention in mind. And we're not limited the way a government function is, where we can be discretionary about what we support or don't support. And our big kind of history with that was actually first stopping the gas station and convenience store compound that was aimed at the beloved Adachi Nursery site. And so we're kind of politically free to kind of pick and choose what we support or oppose, and it's great. And we're just very slowly building up momentum and taking off to try to be a kind of a force within El Sobrante to facilitate that. And we're geographically focusing on the Triangle area with kind of the crown jewel we've got, the success story we've got is the arrival of the Good Table and Planning Justice. And we have a third little nonprofit right there called Triangle Works, which is all about vitalizing that particular area. But of course, our works will ideally spill over, and, we're watching Maori Park and the Dam Road corridor, but we are geographically really focused on the Triangle. And I have a little presentation to do about that. There's a colleague also on. So we'll take our 2 minutes each to do that in a few minutes when we get to the public comment part. But we really want to shout out a note of support for people making similar noises like that, Sue and Mickey in particular. And we have a good working relationship with the Chamber also, but we're not the Chamber. It's a different, it's kind of different types of fruit there.
So
apples and oranges, I mean.
Serge, if you and your colleague are planning to present something in your 2 minutes, maybe it would be better to have you maybe at the next meeting on the agenda, so you could all give a more comprehensive presentation rather than be limited to a couple of minutes each.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Well, Edgar did broach that idea with me on the chat already. And then I said, well, we already kind of planned, like two of us, and we talked with Mickey about this before. We'll do 2 minutes each, 2 times 2. And then we can do a bigger one, maybe not next month necessarily, but when we're good and ready. But we've been saying we want to be good and ready for a while. And we decided to bite the bullet and make a showing today.
That sounds great, Serge, but I definitely would recommend, I think that there's a lot of interest locally, and we'd want to publicize that a bit to get lots of people to come to the presentation at the MAC. and excitement locally.
Because it's towards the end of the meeting and your audience
Yeah.
will be falling off a bit. So it might be more impactful for the two of you to consolidate your presentation and do something next month. Even if I do regret that you have put effort into preparing something for tonight, and I understand if you want to move forward with it, but I really would encourage you to do a full presentation and have it up at the beginning of the meeting when we have the most attendance, so you're going to get the most ears and the most interaction. So just a thought.
I would like to suggest that since they prepared their 2 minutes and we have the public comment time, I think it would be good for him to give it's like a teaser or a trailer to what might be coming later on in a full-on presentation. And we did encourage people to come today for public comment to say what they'd like to see here in El Sobrante. So.
Okay, Mickey, do you have anything else? Your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Sue's thing, we do want some kind of public square. We do, for a goal, let's try to figure out a good way of communicating with the with El Sobrante neighbors to get them more engaged, possibly with the MAC or with other, find out what are the community organizations, how can we get them to participate more and have a more vibrant community. That's it, I think, for me right now.
Okay, so
that was basically figure out a way how to communicate better with and get out.
Back and forth. How do we get stuff out there? But also how do we get input from our community, especially if we're looking at developing anything that's going to take some money, where we need people to be showing up. At the moment, we don't know what our local residents really want. We just know what we show up with. We have a relatively white and older group, and that's not true for the demographics of our area. So how do we engage more people? I think that should be part of our goals. And
also like the schools in the neighborhood, like to get them more involved.
How to build
the churches, the other entities that are out here as well.
Right. I just want to note that I'm on the strategic planning committee for West Contra Costa school district, and so I'm kind of pushing on that a bit to try and figure out how we can leverage more between us.
So do we have any more input regarding goals for 2023? Because if not, there's also the issue of the end of the year report that Edgar might want to talk about. Edgar?
Yeah, that was the end of the year report. Is fairly brief. I just wanted to quickly go over the document, Thomas, that we worked on, just kind of going over highlighting some activities. I'm gonna share my screen. And I guess it was just to, I just wanted to kind of be transparent with the folks and just show them, like, this is what our end of the year. Is everyone seeing my screen?
Not big enough to read. Should we be able to read it?
Yeah, give me a second. Does that work?
No, bigger.
How about that? Does that work?
Bit bigger.
One more.
One more. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is our advisory body annual report. I know that some of the veteran MAC members are quite familiar with this, especially if you were a chair or a co-chair in the past. So this is what this document looks like at the end of the year. You report on all of the activities that you've done. You also talk about some of the accomplishments. And you also, give me a second. This is taking really long to scroll down for some reason. And also some of the attendance, training certificates, and then the proposed plan and objective for next year. So we do take note of the trainings. Like for this year, we had the land use application training, and I'm going to review over winter break, you know, what are some of the trainings that we should have the MAC members do, because they know that they have some, you know, they have like a Brown Act training. They also have a Treasury training, and they have all these other trainings that it's encouraged for the MAC members to kind of go through. They're free, they're conducted by the county. So that's just kind of how this looks like. And the reason why I want to bring this up was just to look at the proposed objectives for next year, which I've kind of jotted down. I'm going to post these, and then I'm going to share them with Thomas, and then I'll share them with the group to make sure that this reflects what we did in the year. I'm not going to spend time going through this right now in terms of like what each block says, but yeah, this is what this document looks like. And just for everyone's awareness, this is usually done this is usually created and worked behind the scenes with the staffer and the chair. And we just kind of outline, all right, what did we accomplish this year? What did we do this year? And what do we want to do next year? And this is usually discussed during the MAC meeting. I just wanted to show it to you folks so you guys can get an understanding of why we're creating these goals. When the policies say you can only provide funding for things that were at the end of the year report, what does that report even look like? That's what this looks like. So Thomas took the liberty of filling most of this stuff out. So thank you, Thomas, because he did this over the weekend, a couple of weekends ago. And yeah, it kind of goes over everything that we did, what the items that we covered, everything from COVID-19 presentations to East Bay Mud to the different standing items with Con Fire and the Sheriff's Office, with the general plan, and it really covers a lot of things. So yeah, this is the annual report. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm just putting something into the chat for you.
Okay.
So you're going to send this to us or post it on the website?
Yeah, so before it gets, so the way that the process is that the chair and the staffer, they develop this plan with the feedback from the MAC, and just kind of, they create this annual plan, and then it gets submitted to the county clerk, which then gets sent in front of the board, and the board approves it, right? They kind of go over and look at what we did, and what are the goals for next year, and then it gets approved. There's never been a case that I know of that hasn't been approved, unless there's something that was really concerning on there. And then that's the items that you're approved for the year, meaning that if you take on any expenses or there's any kind of item that you want to accomplish, you have that there, and it's just more for like keeping track and keeping documentation. So it has to get submitted before the year end. So it has to be submitted before December 31st, and it's going to be on the board in January. So I'm going to work on this with Thomas, with the items that we discussed today in terms of what are our goals for next year. I'm going to put that on there. I'm going to revise it one more time. I'm going to send it to Thomas. Once Thomas gives me the okay, we'll go from there, and I'll share it with the rest of the team. And then after everyone approves it, I'll submit it to the clerk, and then it will be presented to the board, and then we'll approve it.
So thank you for that. And thank you for all your efforts on this, Edgar. I know you inherited a lot from James as well, so thanks for continuing to move that forward. So I think we can perhaps move to the final item on the agenda, which is the public comment. And maybe for the first public comments, we can have Serge and his colleague give their 2 minutes each on the triangle.
Okay, so I already held the floor a bit and told you some about triangle work, so I can make this a little shorter. And I'm gonna can I actually get share screen up though?
Yep, give me just 1 second. All right, you should have share screen capable.
You there?
Yeah, you should have share screen capabilities. I changed it.
Okay. And is my screen up yet? I'm having a little glitch here. Okay, you know, maybe I...
You want to just talk us through it?
Yeah, I'll talk you through it. I will, dang it. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just not on top of this enough sometimes. Okay, yeah, I'll just talk you guys through it. Just real quick, historically, we've got our roots within the community. Some of us from the days of the Friends of Garrity Creek, back when there was a small subdivision planned up there, and getting the Wild and Radish Farm in to that spot. And that kind of merged, or also kind of followed in with the work of Maurice Abraham and his vision and dream of having an arts district in the Triangle area. And then, of course, the Adachi challenge came up right around the same time. So all these things and some of the characters and personalities there, we've kind of continued to move around and merge. And now we have this relatively recent effort of this thing that, one of the things that isn't fluid about is we do finally have a name, and it's not the Triangle District, it's not the Arts District, it's Triangle Works. And that's a deliberately broad kind of title, because we're interested in all aspects of vitalizing the community. And that ranges from building up our little building, which is known as the Shed. You can see it on the Planning Justice Good Table property. It's kind of hard to miss. It's got the redwood siding going on. And the Shed is our physical hub, where we're going to be promoting workshops and art for the community. It's going to kind of complement what's going to be going on at the Good Table Cafe on the same property. But we're also trying to maneuver ourselves so that we can be in the right place at the right time to attract the kind of development we would like for all the vacant parcels, the vacant and kind of stagnant parcels that are around there. And we don't really have money yet to do that with, but we're kind of starting to reach out to real estate types, investor types, and ultimately work towards trying to be kind of like a matchmaker to intentionally attract the kind of business we want or also don't want there. And then also we do want to collaborate with entities like the MAC for sort of public works kind of improvements. So things like getting more greenery in there, walkability, and street art, kind of art for the spirit of the community. And then we have some practical, and then also we're interested in live work housing so that we can have artistic and activistic and community centric people living there, living and working in the same zone. So we've established our 501c3 status. We've raised a little bit of money for one specific project, and we're at a stage of quiet and careful growth. And we welcome new energies and members. And so we're really looking for people to join a core group of us. There's about 10 of us that are at the foundation of it. And then there's other individuals outside of that working on individual projects. And Tamika, are you on, hopefully?
Yes.
Okay, and you can probably figure out certainly how to turn on your camera.
Yeah, we're on. Hi.
You're on, okay.
Yeah.
And then Tamika Bailey is going to tell you a little bit about the specific actions we have, those specific projects we have going. And then we can answer questions if that's one.
All right, hi everyone. Again, Tamika Bailey. I live very close to the proposed Triangle District area. So one of the big things I wanted to work on and why I wanted to get involved is to help build community support for this vision and get like an on the ground needs assessment of the businesses that are already in the area to see what they want to see that area become and what their hopes and visions are, so that, you know, that there's buy-in, right? That there's not just a small group of people coming in with this idea. We want to make sure that we're actually incorporating you know, what people who already are in this area want. Like somebody had mentioned before, we really want to get a better sense of what the community really wants to look like ultimately. So we're literally going to do like meet and greets, like door knocking on the few businesses that already exist in the Triangle District. So that's on the agenda for probably January. And then some other tangible projects we're working on is a mural, and it's going to be on that wall that is around the old El Sobrante Christian High School that has been vacant for many years now. It's a bright yellow wall. And right now we are soliciting artwork. The theme is around nature and the indigenous people of El Sobrante. So that is in the works. And that's going to be just the first of, I hope, hopefully many murals. And then Serge mentioned the shed, which is the physical hub, and that is still in construction. So many hands are needed to sort of get that project off the ground. And again, that'll be a space for maker workshops, artist workshops, and even things like emergency preparedness workshops, which some of our core members are very interested in, which kind of links with, you know, fire safety and all the other things that a lot of people in the community are concerned about. And so, you know, this is again the beginning of a conversation. The best way to sort of get involved is to join the listserv, so you guys can see when we have upcoming meetings and just hear about what's happening. That's like the point of entry. Serge, anything I missed?
Yeah, rainwater barrels.
Oh yeah, can you talk about that? I don't know much about that.
Yeah, so we have a small stash, but it's hopefully will grow, but if it doesn't grow, it's okay. Also, we have a small stash of rainwater barrels that we are kind of giving away or getting donations of up to $40 a piece for them. And we have about 15 of them left at this point. They're 55-gallon barrels. And yeah, so it's basically the mural, the shed, and barrels. Those are the hands-on things we are working on. And we've raised money for the mural. But very important thing is we're still low on art. We're working with the Reach Out Mode Foundation, which is our first kind of example of the kind of organization we'd like to have in the Triangle. It's the new daycare center that opened in April, right in the Triangle. But we have very little art still for our mural. So we're putting the word out to artistic types to contact us. We have a professional muralist that was introduced to us by the chamber, actually. And we need more art before we start painting. And then also we're soliciting donations of paint and supplies for that effort. So thanks very much for giving us more than 2 minutes times 2. And Tamika, if you don't have anything to add, I think.
Well, actually, I just want to just say one more thing. Yeah. The mural will hopefully be a day of bringing the community together to actually paint. Obviously, the artists will, you know, have everything laid out, and then the children and other folks can actually help with the painting. So that I think will be a core community building project.
And then our email site, and then there's also a website courtesy of El Sobrante Beautification, Chris and Mickey. There's a link in the chat bar about how to get on our list, or more likely, hopefully, to contact us and say, hey, I want to do this with you guys. So thank you.
All right, well,
Thank you.
thank you. Go ahead, Nikki.
I'd just like to add, I hope we can get some murals or signage, some art around town with some inspirational messages, possibly about cleaning up, don't be a litter bug, different things like that, you know, different things to raise the consciousness around town. As
I second that.
Yeah. Okay, great. Let's work together on that.
All right. Are there any other questions, concerns, points to be made for open agenda items?
Sorry, I'm being
struggling with a dog.
Sorry about that. Yes, she's like really done with the meeting at this point.
Yes. Okay. Any further open agenda items?
One last thing. Can I?
Oh, sure. Please go ahead, Tamika.
Just one idea. I think Sue, maybe it was Sue, I don't know. Someone had mentioned like trying to get the students more involved. What about if we had like a student-led cleanup day, kind of collaborating with the beautification community and the high school to see if there's any interest, like they could get community service hours, because I think that's a requirement. I don't know, that's just an idea.
We definitely want that. We just need to figure out how to make that happen and how to communicate with the schools and get them on board. I mean, it's always really messy around De Anza High School, and we need to get them to at least take responsibility for that chunk of area nearby to get them on board and get them credits for it, of course, yeah. But we haven't figured out how to really communicate with these people. So that's going to be a goal as well for next year.
I have heard from a number of people that the schools are kind of hard to get to. I mean, they have just like one phone number and you'll call them with an idea. And if you're lucky, they'll route you to, you know, I was looking for artists and I went to the community college, I went to De Anza, I went to the Christian school and didn't get any takers, but there's got to be channels there somewhere.
I think that this is also something that could be routed through the supervisor's office, because he probably knows the powers that be in the school district. He might be able to help, and maybe that's the way we can close this meeting.
I can also say that my son doesn't go to school here. He doesn't go in the district, but he goes to Lafayette Elementary. But I'm sorry, he goes to Acalanes High School now. Oh my gosh, I can't keep up. But there's also a green team club. And I'm curious if there is some sort of green team club maybe within our high schools that that we can reach out to, and that might be a lot easier to infiltrate in and be able to get that support that you guys are looking for.
I'm going to be already going to liaise with both the middle school and high school because of something that I'm doing with El Sobrante Library. And so it might be smart to maybe, I can also do stuff around green team and cleanup to try and get in there, because I now know the superintendent, and it might be helpful if I know the superintendent to help get, because it has been incredibly frustrating trying to get any kind of contact with principals up until now, but I'm determined to keep going. And I do think that that is a big deal with this community, is like, let's break those barriers down. Let's welcome our teenagers into the community, you know, back and forth with the schools. I think that's going to be very powerful for everyone.
And it's very powerful for high schoolers to also understand that as I'm going through the college admissions process with my junior, that what these colleges are looking for with admissions is they're not looking for just, oh, I played soccer, oh, I just did this and that. What they are absolutely
so I hate to interrupt, but we're sort of getting to the top of the hour. I think this is a great conversation, and I'm wondering, Jennifer, if perhaps you and Sue could continue that over email or something.
Sure, absolutely.
So there's one person who had her hand up, I believe Jean Henderson, and maybe we can close out the meeting with Jean's question or comment.
Thanks. It's just a comment. When it comes to the school district, some of the best way, I work with a group that actually today finished our food delivery, which is a completely different focus, but still we delivered food to 14 schools and worked with outreach counselors at every school. And I think we need to just walk into the schools. We need to meet people in their space. So that would be my suggestion for the schools. We work with them all year long.
Okay, well, I think that that's a great note to adjourn the meeting. I think it's been a really interesting and useful meeting tonight. And just want to thank everybody for attending and sticking with it. And I just want to thank all of the MAC members and all of our loyal community members who have attended the meetings over the year. Thank you so much for your devotion to your community. And everybody have a safe and happy holiday and New Year.
You too, Thomas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
See you folks next year.
Happy holidays to all.
Take care.
All good night.
Happy upcoming solstice. Thank you.